There comes a time when life ain't whispering anymore. It hollers. You must rise. Dust off the hurt, the habit, the hush of hopelessness. Reset, like dawn after storm, like truth after silence. You are not your yesterday. You are the thunder of beginning again. Push yourself, bless yourself with that start. Change doesn't ask permission. It doesn't knock politely at your door with flowers in hand, asking if now is a good time. It crashes in like a storm, without warning, without a plan, rearranging everything you thought was settled. Change does not wait for you to be ready. It doesn't seek your comfort, your approval, or your schedule. It does not pause because you are scared or uncertain. Change is the untamed wind. It moves with its own rhythm and expects you to adjust your step, not to stop its motion. There are moments when life folds itself inward, when routines wrap around you like warm quilts, and you tell yourself you are safe, steady, still. But in the quiet of those moments, something stirs, something that says, this is not all. That is change whispering before it roars. It begins as a quiet discomfort, a misalignment between what you feel and what you live. And then when you ignore it long enough, it breaks. Like rivers overflowing their banks, like fire chasing dry grass. It burns through the lies you told yourself just to make peace with a stagnant life. You can resist it, yes. You can hold on to what's familiar, clutching it like an old song you no longer sing, hoping it will still bring you comfort. But change does not care for nostalgia. It does not slow down to let you gather your memories or make you feel cozy in your indecision. It demands movement. It demands that you rise, even when your knees are trembling, even when your voice shakes, because growth is not polite. Evolution is not gentle. The breaking is part of the becoming. You may cry. You may curse the timing. You may wonder why now, why this way, why so hard. But look closer. The mess that unsettles you is also the message that saves you. The endings you mourn are the space life clears out for what's next. And it is next, always coming, always arriving, regardless of whether you clap or cry. You were not made to remain the same. Seasons change, and so must you. Trees let go of their leaves without fear that spring will forget them. Why should you be any different? You can't bloom if you won't shed. You can't climb if you won't leap. And you won't become if you insist on being who you were. So, when change comes, don't demand an explanation. Don't ask it to slow down or speak softly. Instead, breathe deep. Plant your feet. Let it carry you. Let it unravel what you outgrew long ago. Because nothing that is meant for you will leave you by accident. And nothing you've lost that served your growth was ever wasted. Change doesn't ask permission. It doesn't need to. Because somewhere deep inside you, there's a knowing, a part of you that remembers you were born to rise, to shift, to become. You were not built for smallness. You were not built for permanence. You are fluid, divine, unfinished, and that is a holy thing. The reset begins in silence, not in noise, not in chaos, not in a crowd cheering you on. It begins when the world goes quiet and you're left alone with the truth of who you are and who you are not. It begins in the hush between heartbreak and healing, in the breath you take before deciding not to go back to what broke you. The reset doesn't demand applause. It doesn't come with fanfare. It walks in softly, like dawn easing through a window after a long, unforgiving night. In the silence, you can hear what the noise drowned out, the ache you buried, the longing you denied, the voice you once trusted but forgot to listen to. That voice is yours. And the silence, uncomfortable, unfamiliar, and thick with memory, makes room for that voice to rise, to whisper what you knew all along but were too distracted to admit. Something must change, and that something is you. We live in a world that praises constant motion, nonstop doing, endless striving, but the soul doesn't bloom in noise. The soul waits. It waits for quiet. It waits for you to sit down, to get still, to stop performing. It waits for the moment you put down your armor, not because the battle is over, but because you've realized fighting to be who you're not is a war you can never win. Silence is where clarity begins. It doesn't arrive all at once. It uncoils slowly. You sit in the dark, and things you couldn't face begin to speak. The pain, the guilt, the fear, the untold stories, all of them show up in the stillness, not to torment you, but to free you. Because you cannot reset what you haven't reckoned with. You can't move forward if you won't sit with what held you back. Resetting is not a leap, it is a surrender, a quiet, sacred decision to no longer carry what is not yours. It's the moment you turn off the outside voices and ask your spirit, what do I need to let go of? What part of me have I silenced to keep others comfortable? In that silent reckoning, you meet your truth. Not the truth dressed for the world, but the truth that sits at your core, barefoot and brave. And when you find that truth, something begins to shift, slowly, gently. You may not notice it at first. A little more peace in your breath, a little less panic in your chest. The urge to please starts to quiet. The need to prove starts to fall away. And in its place, a steadiness begins to rise. You feel it in your bones before you feel it in your life. That's the reset. That's the sacred turning inward that changes everything outward. The silence isn't empty, it's full of your essence, your resilience, your sacred knowing. In the quiet, you remember, your worth isn't in what you produce. Your value isn't in how loud you are or how many people clap when you speak. It's in how honestly you live, how fully you feel, how gently you begin again. So let the world spin. Let it rush and rattle. You don't need to keep up. What you need is already inside you, waiting for the stillness. That moment when you close your eyes, exhale the lies, and meet yourself again, without judgment, without shame. You must confront what you've been avoiding. There is no way around it, no shortcut gentle enough, no detour quiet enough to spare you from the reckoning. What you run from only grows legs, follows your shadow, and whispers in your silence. What you bury doesn't die. It waits. Waits beneath your laughter, beneath your ambition, beneath the mask you've learned to wear so well. But there comes a day, a still, sharp day, when the ache you've tucked away demands to be seen. And that is the day you must turn and face it. Avoidance is a slow undoing. It makes a nest in your chest and calls it safety, when really it's stagnation. It dresses itself as strength, keeping it together, holding it in, but it's fear in fine clothing. And fear, unchallenged, becomes a habit, a way of breathing, a way of being. You convince yourself you're coping when really you're pausing your life one unresolved moment at a time. You can't heal what you won't hold. You can't grow from what you won't name. You see, truth is patient. It won't scream, it won't beg, it simply waits for your honesty to catch up with your heart. And when it does, when you finally stop running and stand still, the thing you feared loses its teeth. The pain is real, yes, but it is not forever. The memory hurts, yes, but it is not who you are. Confronting what you've avoided doesn't mean becoming the pain again. It means reclaiming your power from it. To face it is to say, this happened, this hurt, this shaped me, but it does not own me. It means peeling away the protective stories, the polished justifications, and looking at the raw, unfiltered truth. Maybe it's grief you've denied. Maybe it's a choice you regret, a truth you silenced, a dream you abandoned, a part of yourself you locked away because the world told you it was too much. Whatever it is, it will keep knocking until you open the door. And it's not punishment, it's mercy. Because to confront it is to carry it differently, lighter, softer, as wisdom, not weight. When you face what you've been avoiding, you learn the shape of your strength, not the strength that hides pain, but the strength that holds it and says, I can carry this, and I can still walk forward. Avoidance promises peace, but delivers pressure. It builds up behind your eyes, in your jaw, in your tired soul. It spills out in moments that don't make sense. Short tempers, deep sadness, distant stares. But confrontation clears space. It's not easy. It's not quick. But it is clean. It wipes the fog from your vision and shows you the road again. The real road, not the one paved in pretense. So sit with it. Talk to it. Write it down. Say it out loud. Cry if you need to. Scream if you must. But don't keep turning away. You are not too broken to face this. You are not too late to heal from it. You are not too weak to hold what hurt you and still choose joy. What you've been avoiding isn't the end of you. It's the beginning of your becoming. And when you finally stop and meet it, something in you will rise. Not in fear, but in freedom. Because truth, even when it burns, always sets you free. Let go of who hurt you, even if it was you. Not because they asked for forgiveness, not because they deserve it, not even because time has passed and wounds have faded, but because carrying that pain is no longer serving your soul. Because healing is heavy when you won't release what broke you. Letting go is not forgetting. It is remembering without reliving. It is choosing peace over punishment. And sometimes the person you need to release the most is the one staring back at you in the mirror. There is a kind of ache that comes from others. The betrayal, the rejection, the lies. It cuts deep and lingers long. But there is another kind of pain, quieter and harder to name. The pain we caused ourselves. The times we stayed too long, gave too much, spoke too little. The moments we settled when we knew we deserved more. The voices we silenced. The red flags we ignored. The dreams we let die out of fear. And it's easier sometimes to be angry at others than to face the fact that we were part of our own wounding. But to heal, truly heal, you must meet yourself with the same compassion you long to receive from others. You must unclench the fists you've held around old memories and loosen your grip on blame. Forgiveness is not a gift for them. It's a grace you give to yourself. You can't walk freely into your future while dragging the shadows of your past behind you. You can't thrive when you're punishing yourself for who you used to be. You did the best you could with what you knew then. Maybe it wasn't enough. Maybe it wasn't fair. But self-condemnation is not redemption. It's a prison. You are not the mistakes you made. You are not the hurt you endured. You are not defined by how long you stayed in pain. Only by how bravely you choose to rise from it. Letting go is not erasing your story. It's editing the way it ends. And letting go of others, the ones who wounded you, who walked away without apology, who broke parts of you that took years to rebuild, that is a holy act. Not because it says what they did was right, but because it says you deserve to be free. Holding on to their harm keeps their power alive in your life. It ties your worth to their absence, your peace to their change. But they may never change, and they don't have to for you to be whole. Release them, not with bitterness, but with blessing. Let the memory soften. Let the anger go quiet. Let the wound become a scar, a reminder that you survived, not that you were shattered. You have lost enough. Don't lose yourself in the loss. And when it comes to forgiving yourself, do it out loud. Speak your name with kindness. Write it down if you have to. I forgive myself for not knowing better. I forgive myself for loving too hard, staying too long, hoping too much. Say it again and again until it feels like truth, because one day it will. Letting go is not weakness. It is strength wrapped in softness. It is choosing to live light, to love without armor, to move forward unchained. And that choice is yours, always has been, always will be. Let go of who hurt you, even if it was you, especially if it was you. Growth starts where your comfort dies, not where things are familiar, soft, and easy, but where they stretch, sting, and demand more of you than you ever thought you had. Growth is not a gentle guest. It does not arrive with ease and certainty. It comes when life shakes loose the ground beneath you, when the things you depended on stop working, and when the person you were no longer fits the life you're meant to live. Comfort is warm, but it is also deceptive. It tells you that staying the same is safety. It whispers that your current routine, your circle, your patterns, even if they no longer serve you, are enough. And maybe they were once, but growth is life's way of reminding you that you are made for more than survival. You are made for becoming, and you cannot become if you refuse to be broken open by change. The death of comfort often comes quietly, a growing restlessness, a sadness you can't explain, a dream that won't leave you alone, or it comes loudly, a betrayal, a loss, a door slamming shut. Either way, it demands that you move, that you risk, that you walk away from what once felt like home but now feels like a cage. It's in the tension where growth begins, in the questions with no answers, in the space between what you were and what you're not yet. And that in between, that wilderness, is where you find your voice, your strength, your truth. You don't need a map, you need courage. You don't need to see the whole path, just take the next brave step. 1 foot in front of fear, 1 breath deeper than doubt. People will tell you to be realistic, to stay grounded, to choose stability. But sometimes growth looks like losing everything that made you feel secure. Sometimes it looks like standing alone. Sometimes it means unlearning what you were taught and reteaching yourself what freedom really feels like. It is uncomfortable, it is uncertain, and it is utterly necessary. Comfort may feel like peace, but it can be a prison. It keeps you tied to people who do not challenge you. It binds you to places you've outgrown. It holds you in cycles you've long stopped benefiting from. You may think you're protecting yourself, but really you're hiding. And you cannot grow in hiding. You must step into the light of discomfort and allow it to show you who you really are. Growth asks for everything: your pride, your plans, your preferences. It asks you to show up anyway, tired, unsure, trembling. Still, you rise. Because something greater is calling you forward, and you owe it to yourself to answer, not just for the life you want, but for the person you are becoming on the way there. You will fall. You will fail. You will doubt yourself more times than you can count. But you will also find resilience where you thought there was none. You will discover how deeply you can love yourself when no one else understands your path. You will learn that growth does not promise ease, but it always delivers truth. So let comfort die. Let the old stories, old fears, and old versions of you fall away. Let them rot like leaves in autumn, making space for something new to bloom. Because real growth is not polite, it is raw, it is real. It ruins what you thought you needed and gives you back something better, yourself, wiser, stronger, freer. The power to begin again is always yours. No matter how far you've drifted, how broken you feel, how many wrong turns you've taken, there is always a road that leads back to you. Not the old version of you, not the one shaped by the mistakes or defined by the failures, but the deeper, wiser, rising you, the one who has survived, the one who still believes, quietly, stubbornly, that more is possible, that a new chapter can be written even when the old one ended in silence or in shame. Life doesn't move in straight lines. It bends, it breaks, it circles back. And sometimes you lose your way, not because you're weak, but because life is heavy and the world is loud. But even in the middle of your mess, the power to begin again is not lost. It is waiting for your yes, waiting for your breath, waiting for you to say, I'm not done yet. Starting over is not failure. It is faith. Faith in your ability to heal, to grow, to recreate something meaningful out of what was once just rubble. People may not understand it. They may measure you by timelines, titles, and trophies. But beginnings are sacred things. They are quiet revolutions. They happen when you choose yourself, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. You may have to rebuild from nothing. You may have to forgive yourself for what you didn't know or what you knew and ignored. You may have to walk away from what you once begged to keep. But that's the beauty of a beginning. It doesn't need permission from your past. It only needs your presence, your willingness, your yes. Starting again might look small. A morning walk instead of staying in bed. A deep breath before responding. A boundary drawn in soft strength. A journal entry. A prayer. A whispered promise. I won't give up on me. Don't wait for the world to validate your renewal. The world often misses the miracle of small beginnings. But you will feel it. You will feel something shift, a flicker of light where there was only weight, a glimpse of hope where there was only hurt. You don't have to erase the past to begin again. You don't have to pretend it didn't happen. Bring it with you, not as a burden, but as a teacher. Let it remind you of how far you've come. Let it keep you humble, but never hidden. Let it make you gentle with others, but fierce with your own healing, because you have tasted pain and kept going. You have cried and kept walking. You have broken and still held on to light. That is power. That is the quiet strength of someone who has learned to rise. And even if you've begun before and fallen, begin again, as many times as you need. This is not about perfection. This is about persistence. The world will try to convince you that there's a limit to how many times you can start over, that once you've fallen enough, you're meant to stay down. But that's a lie. You are allowed to rise again and again and again. As long as there is breath in your body, there is power in your hands. The power to write a new page, to shift your direction, to speak your truth, to choose joy, to begin. You may not feel ready. Begin anyway. You may not have all the answers. Begin anyway. Because life does not wait for perfection. It waits for courage. And the most courageous thing you can do is look at the ruins of what was, gather your soul in both hands, and decide, this is not the end of me. You were never meant to stay the same. Life, in all its mystery and motion, was always calling you to rise, to break, to rebuild, to bloom. You were made for the reset, for the hard pause that leads to holy change, the power to begin again, to grow, to let go, to confront and transform. That power was never out there. It was always within you.